The 2019 Game Developers Conference will feature an exhibition titled GDCDEDICATEDTOGAMES that use alternative control schemes and interactions. Godot Sutra will be talking to the developers of each of the games that have been selected for the showcase. Octopad breaks an NES controller into 8 gamepads with a single input each, turning single-player games into multiplayer experiences built around communication and collaboration. Godot Sutra had a chat with Patrick Lemieux, developer of Octopad, to talk about the unique play experiences that come from having 8 players work together on a single-player game, how all of these players can reshape a game in exciting ways, and the varied personal play styles that come up when working together. Hi there, I am Patrick Lemieux, and I am an assistant professor in the Cinema and Digital Media Department at University of California, Davis, where I teach game design, game studies, media theory, and media art. My academic research involves both writing about games as well as making games, and the Octopad is one of several projects I made after publishing Metagaming, a book co-authored with Stephanie Bullock about the games we play on, around, and through video games. From ROM hacking and speedrunning to art making on esports, Stephanie and I are interested in the strange things people do with video games and how the ways we play together can radically change the rules, mechanics, and even hardware of a given game. In Metagaming we argue that video games are not games but instruments, equipment, tools, and toys for making meta games, and the Octopad, for its part, is designed to turn old, single-player video games into multiplayer meta games. The Octopad is an alternative interface for the Nintendo Entertainment System that transforms classic titles like Super Mario Bros., The Legend of Zelda, and Tetris, Noid, Gremlins 2, and Hatches into cooperative puzzles and parties by dividing buttons up between 4 to 8 people. To introduce players to the project, I usually hold up and modify the NES controller in one hand and the snare of 8 Octopad controllers in the other while asking, instead of one controller with 8 buttons, what if there were 8 controllers with 1 button each? Instead of a single-player experience, what if Tetris was a team sport? Sometimes it takes a second. But when players realize that their controller has only the up button, or a down button, and nothing else, they get the idea and start forming a team. Despite playing, making, teaching, and thinking about games for a living, I actually do not have formal training in programming and game design. My background is in architecture, media art practice, and media theory. So most of my experience with video game hardware and software is in the context of museums, gallery spaces, and research projects. Although I did make an episodic RPG Maker 2000 game throughout high school, the only game I have ever sold. My game design experience comes mostly from a decade developing artworks and installations using tools like Flash, Max MSP, Arduino, and Unity. Some of the things I have made, a series of art games, designed to be projected on monochromatic paintings at the MoMA, an iPhone app for virtually scouting an abandoned house during the United States housing crisis with Jack Steiner, an alternate reality game about the global economic downturn in the wake of the Occupy movement, with Anne Catherine Hills and Patrick Jogodo, and a solo exhibition of weird moral modifications at Baby Castles can be found in my portfolio. Since Metagaming included a series of software demos designed to extend the arguments in each chapter, Stephanie and I have been making more video games this year. We have been cleaning them up and posting them on itch.io. For example, we recently released Footnotes, a 3D platformer featuring procedurally generated pastel landscapes, littered with hundreds of footnotes from the book, and Triforce, a short puzzle game that visualizes strange spaces from the original Legend of Zelda as Donut Sun Spheres, MBIUS strips and climb bottles. The Octopad sits alongside this software as mood, more game-like work being exhibited in festivals like CTRL GDC. The Octopad is a remarkably straightforward project. It's an electrical and hardware mod, and I am not actually using any software or fabrication tools like laser cutters or 3D printers to make it. It actually begins with a grid of NES controllers I buy on eBay. The controllers are tested and cleaned before I begin a full teardown. Iron them, remove face decals, take out the buttons on the conductive pads, and desolder both the cord and the 4021-bit shift register. Once I have piles of empty shells, blank pits, desoldered microchips, untethered cords, and extra buttons, I divide my time between RESTLDA array and LED electronic components in a different order and modifying the face plates. The cords are snipped and resoldered into the empty 4021 sockets, corresponding with each different button. The face plates are scanned, edited, printed, laminated, treated, cut out, and then stuck on original shells, after they have been dremelled down and patched up with hot glue. After everything is fit back together, the shape, weight, design, and texture all mimic the original controls. The verisimilitude of the controller is crucial for communicating to players how the Octopad works and how to play at first touch. The Octopad was inspired by the treasure trove of PHOTOSHOPPED interfaces that Richard Van Tol and Barry Ellis posted on the Game Accessibility forums over 10 years ago. In their thread from 2006, you can see images of one-button Wiimotes on the Atari joysticks, without sticks, Game Boys and Game Gears that start to look like smartphones, and even a long DK Bongo and a Nintendo Zapper, without a scope. Out of all the images, the original poster of the NES controller, with just a single button, struck me as both a clear-cut of default, or standard control schemes, and a really fun way to play together as a group. The Octopad is an attempt to make that image playable, and, following Van Tol and Ellis, to reimagine a historic platform in the paradigm of one-switch games made by and for folks with limited manual dexterity, that can be played with a single digital input, rather than thinking about accessibility as a single-player problem. These controllers engage the social, political, and environmental aspects of video games to change the way we play. Like Mary Flanagan's Junk Joystick, the Octopad defamiliarizes the experience of playing video games by activating the space in front of the screen. It transforms the way we play by focusing on the metagame around it, given game rather than just its mechanics, graphics, sound, and story. How should we play together? How should we communicate with one another? What words or gestures should we use, and how should we position our bodies in space? What's unique about playing with a particular group of people, and how can we play well together? Along the lines of Bernie Dekovan's well-played game, playing well together requires communication, caring, and collaboration, even in deeply competitive games, and I hope the Octopad activates these questions even within standard control schemes and single-player games. Whether focusing solely on a single task, are trying to coordinate more complex behaviors in a group. The Octopad highlights the tension between control as a private, personal, individual phenomenon and control as a complex negotiation between bodies, technology, and culture. It's alternate not only in the sense that it's a custom, a non-standardized controller, but also because it imagines alternate realities, an alternate ease of control. One of the reasons I research video games in the first place is precisely because they stage a conflict between the way we experience the world and the way technical media operate at speeds and scales outside the range of conscious experience. The Octopad intervenes by shifting the scales, splitting up and slowing down the next operations, and shifting what we mean by experience from something individual to something collective. I did not have many preconceived notions about how people would play with the Octopad, considering the work of modders and mappers.